Hey there! Have you ever felt that little jolt of confusion when trying to figure out if it's I have eaten or I ate? Or maybe you want to talk about a future plan but aren't sure which tense to use. You're not alone. The 12 English verb tenses can seem intimidating, but they're the key to speaking and writing with precision. In this one video, we're going to break down all 12 tenses, from the simple to the perfect continuous, giving you the full toolkit you need to express any action at any time. We'll make a subject that often feels complicated feel simple. So let's dive in and master the tenses together.
Hey and welcome. Today, we are diving into probably the most fundamental tense in the entire English language, the present simple. It's the bedrock for so much of what we say, and trust me, by the end of this, you are going to have this down cold. So, let's get right into it.
Okay, so take a look at this sentence. Simple, right? But, this little sentence, it holds the key to the whole thing. We use the present simple for things that are generally true, happen repeatedly, or are just always true. Think about it. Mars orbited the sun yesterday. It's orbiting it right now, and it's going to orbit it tomorrow. It's a timeless fact.
All right, so let's really dig into that core idea. Before we even touch the grammar rules, it's super important to get the why. Why do we even have this tense? Well, it's for talking about the constants in our world and, in our own lives.
So here's the official definition, if you will. The present simple is our go-to for anything that happens on the regular, like a habit or anything that's just a straight-up fact. It's the tense we use for routines, for truths, for constant states. Simple, right? But so powerful.
Okay, so we've got the why down. Now let's get into the how. How do we actually build these sentences? And don't worry, I'm going to break it down into a few super simple building blocks so you can start using it like right now.
Okay, at its most basic level, a present simple sentence. It's really just two pieces. You've got your subject, the who or the what doing the thing, and then you've got the verb, the action itself. For example, I eat, they run. It really doesn't get any more straightforward than that.
All right, now this is the one big rule you really got to remember. For the third person singular, which is just a fancy term for he, she, or it, you just pop a little s on the end of the verb. So I run, but she runs. We sing, but he sings. You just got to remember that little magic s.
And of course, in English, there's always an exception to the rule, right? Well, meet the verb to be. This one totally plays by its own rules. Instead of just adding an s, it transforms completely. It's a special case, so these three forms, I am, you are, he is, you pretty much just have to memorize them. But hey, there are only three.
Okay, so we've mastered making positive sentences. But what about when we want to say no or ask a question? How do we flip them around? It's actually pretty easy. It's all about calling in a couple of little helper words.
To turn a sentence negative, we bring in our helpers, do not and does not, or as you'll usually hear, don't and doesn't. For he, she, and it, you use doesn't. So she plays turns into she doesn't play basketball. And for questions, you just slide that helper word right to the front. Does she play basketball? It's the exact same idea for everything else. They run becomes they don't run, and the question is, do they run?
And guess what? The verb to be is back with its own super simple rules again. To make it negative, you literally just add the word not right after it. He is happy becomes he is not happy. And for a question, you just swap the first two words. He is happy becomes is he happy? See? So much easier.
Okay, theory time is over. Let's get really practical. We know all the rules now, but the big question is, when are you actually going to use this stuff in a real conversation? Well, it turns out the present simple has like three main jobs that cover pretty much every situation you can think of.
Okay, job number one, habits and routines. The stuff you do over and over again. I play guitar. She meditates every night. Job number two, general facts and truths. Things that are just true about the world. Canada is cold. And job number three, talking about your thoughts and feelings right now. My knee hurts. So there you have it. Habits, facts, and feelings.
And that's pretty much it. Just lock that number 3 into your brain. If you can just remember those 3 big jobs, habits, facts, and feelings, I'm telling you, you're going to use the present simple correctly almost 100% of the time. That's the real secret. All right, you ready to level up? A little pro tip for you? Now that you've totally nailed the basics, I want to show you a really cool, kind of advanced way to use the present simple.
This is a trick that storytellers and comedians, they all use it to make their stories pop.
Okay, check this out. So here's the trick. Even if you're telling a story about something that happened yesterday, you can switch to the present simple for the main actions, and it makes your audience feel like they're right there with you. So, the dog is sitting in the park. That sets the scene, right? But then, bam, a man approaches it and tries to pick it up. You feel that? How it suddenly feels more intense, more immediate?
So that's the big takeaway for this section. Next time you're telling a joke or a story, try throwing in the present simple for the punchline or the most dramatic part. It just pulls your listener in and gives the whole thing so much more energy. Seriously, give it a shot.
And there you have it, the present simple decoded. From everyday facts to dramatic storytelling, it does it all. So to wrap this whole thing up, I want you to put it into practice right now. Using the present simple, I've got a question for you. What's one routine that totally defines your day?
And there you have it, the present simple tense. It's one of the most foundational tenses in English, and mastering it is a huge step toward clear communication. Now, it's your turn to practice. Download the worksheet below, work through the exercises, and then check your answers using the key. Let me know in the comments how you did.
Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're going to jump right into the grammar of right now. Yep, we're talking about the present continuous tense. This is the tool you need for any action that's in progress. And over the next few minutes, we're going to break down exactly how to use it so your English sounds way more dynamic and, immediate. So to get started, let's kick things off with a super simple question for you. Just think about it for a second. What are you doing at this exact moment? And there it is. Your answer is a perfect example of the present continuous. See, you already know how to do this. So let's break down the simple formula that's working behind the scenes. Okay, first things first, let's look at how to actually build this tense. And the good news is it all comes down to a really simple three-part formula. Now, you might hear it called the present progressive sometimes, but don't worry, they mean the exact same thing. And honestly, the name says it all. It's all about what's happening right now, what's currently in progress. The recipe is always the same, just three parts. You start with your subject, she, they, or I. Then you add the right form of the verb to be, so is, are, or am. And finally, you just attach your main verb with that ing ending. So you get, she is hunting, they are crying, I am singing, simple as that. Now, adding that ing is usually a piece of cake, but you do have to watch out for a few little spelling quirks. For a word like stop, you have to double that final consonant to get stopping. And for a verb that ends in E, like come, you drop the E before adding the ing. But once you see the pattern, it's really not so bad. And what if you want to make it negative? It's ridiculously easy. You just pop the word not right after the to be verb. And of course, to sound more natural when you're speaking, you can just use the contractions, like isn't or aren't. All right, so now that we know how to build it, let's get into its three main jobs. What does this tense actually do? Yep, there are three fundamental uses for this tense, and honestly, they cover pretty much every situation you're going to need it for. Okay, job number one, and this is the big one. Its most common job is to talk about an action that is happening at this very moment. We're talking real time, right now. Yeah, think about this literally. Right this second, the sun is shining. We are studying grammar. The action is unfolding as I'm saying these very words. Okay, for its second job, we kind of zoom the camera out of it. We use it for temporary actions that are happening around the present time, even if they're not happening at this exact second. So the key word here is temporary. When you say they're living in a small town, it implies it's their situation for now, but maybe not forever, Or we're working on the Smith account this month. That's still true even if you're taking a coffee break right now. And for its third trick, and this one is super useful, the present continuous can actually jump into the future. When you add a future time word like tomorrow or next week, it's a fantastic way to talk about plans that are already locked in. See, this isn't just some vague dream. This is a plan. When you use this tense for the future, it sends a strong signal that you have a confirmed appointment or a ticket booked. It just makes your plans sound way more definite and organized. All right, you've got the basics down cold. So let's level up and check out a few of the more advanced uses. Okay, this next part is really cool. It's like some verbs have a split personality. We use the present simple for a general truth, what we call a state. But to talk about a specific action, we flick to the present continuous. So compare, my new diet doesn't appear to work. That's a general state. With the Prime Minister is appearing at a conference, which is a specific event that's unfolding.
And here's a pro tip for all you storytellers out there. The present continuous is an amazing tool for setting the scene. It describes the background situation that's already in progress when your story starts. You know, a dog is sitting in the park. That's our establishing shot.
And then, bam! The main actions, the things that happen one after another, are told in the present simple. A man approaches, he tries. It's this contrast that creates a really dynamic story, separating the background from the action. This tense can also add these really subtle layers of meaning. For example, if you pair it with the word always, it often describes a repeated habit, something that's part of someone's character. Like, he is always changing his mind. It's not just about what he's doing now. It says something about who he is.
Okay, you've seen the rules, you've seen the advanced moves. Now it's time to put all that knowledge to the test with a quick final inspection. So what do you think? Which one fits here? We're looking for an action that's literally stopping another one from happening at the exact moment of speaking.
Yep, you got it. The answer is, of course, am writing. The action of writing is happening right now, and that's why you can't answer the phone. It's a perfect example of our very first rule.
All right, last one for you. And I'll warn you, this one's a little bit of a trap, so think carefully. Some verbs, well, they just don't like to be in continuous motion.
And it's a trap. Here's why. Some verbs describe states, not actions. We call them stative verbs. Things like believing, knowing, understanding. You don't really do them, they just are. And that's why they almost always stick to the present simple. So the correct way to say it is, she believes in ghosts. So let's end with this thought. By adding just one little word always, the entire meaning can shift. She is changing her mind is just a temporary thing happening now. But she is always changing her mind? Well, that suddenly sounds like a permanent personality trait. It just goes to show how a simple grammar rule can be used to define someone's entire character. So, what else are we saying without even realizing it?
That's a wrap on the present continuous. Remember, this tense helps us talk about things happening right now, this week, or even to complain about annoying habits. To really lock in what you've learned, grab the worksheet and complete the exercises. The answer key is ready when you are, so you can see your progress right away.
Hey there, and welcome. Today, we're going to tackle a grammar point that sometimes trips people up, but it's so useful, the present perfect tense. And you know what? We're going to make it simple, clear, and hopefully even a little fun. Okay, let's get right into it.
So let me start with a question for you. What connects the past to the present? I mean, in life, it's things like our memories, right? Our experiences. Well, in English grammar, we have a special tool that does exactly that.
And that tool is the present perfect. Honestly, the absolute best way to think about it is like a bridge. It's a structure we build with our words that creates this really strong link between something that happened back then, in the past, and why it matters right now. This whole bridge idea, that is the key. Remember that.
So if we're going to use this amazing bridge, first things first, we need to know how to build it. And the good news is the construction is actually super straightforward. It's just a simple 3-part formula, seriously. First, you grab your subject, like I, you, or she. Then you add a little helper verb, which is always going to be have or has. And finally, you pop in the main verb, but in its past participle form, words like seen, eaten, or written. So subject, helper verb, main verb. That's the whole blueprint. Let's see how that looks in the real world. I have written a letter. So we've got our subject, I, our helper, verb, have, and the past participle, written. Perfect. The action of writing happened in the past, but the result, the letter, it exists right now. You see that connection? That's the bridge. And here's one more, just to lock it in. She has taught a class. See? Same exact structure. The only little change is we use has this time, and that's just because our subject, she, is third person singular. She did the teaching in the past, and now, in the present, she carries that experience. Okay, now this is where things can get a little tricky, but it's super important. Let's talk about contractions. So imagine I ask, where's the cake? You might say, it's eaten. That means it is eaten. The cake is gone. But what if I said, my dog doesn't seem hungry? And you reply, well, it's eaten. That means it has eaten. They sound exactly the same, right? But the meanings are worlds apart. One is about the cake's condition now. The other is about the dog's action in the past. It's a tiny detail, but it makes all the difference.
All right, so we know how to build our bridge. The next question is, where does it actually take us? Well, this present perfect bridge really only has three main jobs, or you could think of them as three main destinations it connects us to.
Yep, just 3. That's all you have to remember. It's not so bad, right? So let's check out the first one.
Job number 1 is all about life experiences. This is what you use when the important thing is that something happened at some point in your life, not exactly when it happened. So if we say they have seen a snake, we don't really care if it was last week or a decade ago. The point is the experience of seeing that snake is part of their story now. Okay, job number 2 is to talk about change. It's perfect for showing how a situation is different now than it was before. For example, I have bought a car. What does that really mean? It means in the past, I didn't have a car. But because of that past action of buying one, my present reality has changed. I'm a car owner now.
And that brings us to job number 3, continuing situations. This one is for any action or state that kicked off in the past, and guess what? It's still happening right now. Like in the sentence, we have studied English for 2 years. We started 2 years ago, we studied all through that time, and we are still studying it today. The action crosses the bridge right into the present.
So let's dig a little deeper into that last job, the continuing actions. Because when we talk about these, 2 tiny little words become absolutely essential: for and since. And the rule here is wonderfully simple. You use for when you're talking about a period, a duration of time, like for 2 months or for 5 years. And you use since when you are talking about the specific starting point in time, since 9 o'clock or since 2017. Basically, for answers how long, and since answers starting when. Easy as that. Okay, you've got the fundamentals down. You can build the bridge, and you know the 3 main places it goes. So now you're ready to level up. Let's get into some pro tips for navigating some of the trickier situations. You see this constantly in the news. You just might not have noticed it. Headlines love using the present perfect to break some big recent news. The basketball star Ray Burke has decided to retire. This tells us the major event, the thing that just happened, that's affecting the present moment. But then watch what happens next. The moment the article dives into the specific details of the story, it switches over to the past simple. He played for 15 years. His decision came after. See the pattern? The present perfect announces the news, but the past simple tells the backstory. It's a really common and useful structure. Now, this next one might feel a little weird, but stick with me because it's actually really cool. We can use the present perfect to talk about the future. It happens in sentences with words like after, when, or as soon as. Look at this. After she has finished studying, we can go out for dinner. Now, obviously, she hasn't finished studying yet, but we use the present perfect here to show that action A must be completed before future action B can happen. And to wrap things up, here's a fun little cultural note for you. How often you use the present perfect can sometimes depend on where you are. In American English, for something that just happened, you're much more likely to hear the past simple, like, did you eat lunch? But in British English, it's more common to hear the present perfect. Have you eaten lunch? It's important to note that neither one is wrong. They're just slightly different habits. So there you have it, the present perfect tense. It's that bridge, right? A bridge connecting what you did to what's happening now. A bridge for talking about experiences, changes, and things that are still going on. It's such a powerful tool once you get the hang of it. So the only real question left is, how will you use it to bridge your past to your present?
And with that, we've covered the present perfect tense. This one can be tricky because it connects the past to the present, but with practice, it'll become second nature. Head over to the worksheet, put your new skills to the test, and be sure to check your answers to make sure you've got it down.
Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to break down an English tense that's all about connecting the past to what's happening right now, the present perfect continuous. Now, this one might sound a little complicated, but trust me, the idea behind it is actually super simple. So let's just dive right in. Okay, to get our heads around this, let's start with a little puzzle. Take a look at this. His hands are dirty. So the question is, what's he been up to? Just think about it for a sec. What kind of activity would lead to, well, that? And here's the answer. He has been working in the garden. You see that phrase right there, has been working? That, my friends, is the present perfect continuous. It's the perfect way to connect what he was doing, working, with the result we can see right now, those dirty hands. So what exactly is this tense all about anyway? Well, to put it simply, we use it for an action that kicked off in the past and has kept going right up to this very moment. The key things to remember are duration and that strong connection to now. You know, the easiest way to picture this is to think of it like a bridge. Yeah, a bridge connecting the past to the present. The action starts way back there, it continues on for a while, and it leads you right up to now. And when you get to now, that action might have just stopped, or hey, it might even still be going on. Okay, so we've got the what's and the why down. Now let's get into the how. We're going to look at the actual blueprint for putting these sentences together. And it's pretty much a formula you can use every single time. So here it is, the structure. For a positive sentence, it's pretty straightforward. You take your subject, add have or has, then been, and then your verb with ing at the end. Want to make it negative? Easy. Just slot the word not right after have or has. And for a question, you just take that have or has and pop it right at the beginning of the sentence. Simple as that. Let's look at a real example so you can see how this works. Jenny has been reading. For the negative, it's Jenny has not been reading. But, you know, in conversation, you're almost always going to hear the contraction. Jenny hasn't been reading. And to ask the question, it becomes, has Jenny been reading? See how the pieces just kind of shift around? So now we know the formula. Let's talk about when we should actually use it. All right, we've got the blueprint. But when is the right time to pull this tense out of our toolbox? Let's go over the two main scenarios where this is absolutely the perfect tense for the job. Okay, first up, we use it for an action that just finished, but you can still see the result right now. So for example, I am so tired. And if someone asks why, you'd say, because I have been lifting weights. The tiredness is the result. And the second big one is for an action that started in the past and is still continuing. Like if someone says, I have been teaching for 10 years. That means they started a decade ago, and guess what? They're still teaching today. Now, you're going to see this tense used with two little words all the time, for and since. And the difference is actually really simple. We use for to talk about a period of time, a duration, like for 3 hours, and we use since to talk about a specific point in time when the action started, like since 3 p.m. or since Monday. Okay, you've totally got the basics down now, so I think we're ready to level up a bit. Let's look at a couple of more advanced rules that'll really help you fine-tune your English and dodge some common mistakes. This is a big one, so listen up. We generally don't use this continuous tense with something called state verbs. These are words that describe a state of being, not an active, well, action. Think of words like know, like, belong, or understand. So, for example, you would never say, I have been knowing him. No way. You'd switch to the present perfect simple and just say, I have known him. You know, sometimes the tense you pick really comes down to what part of the story you want to highlight. For instance, if you say the economy has been improving, you're using the continuous form because you're focusing on the process, the ongoing journey of that change. But check out the difference here. If you say the economy has improved by 5%, now you're using the simple form because you're focused on the finished result. You're pointing to a concrete, completed achievement. So you see, process versus result. It's a small change in words, but a big change in meaning. And here's one more key difference to keep in mind. You want to use the continuous for the general ongoing activity, like he has been playing for the Raptors, but the moment you mention a specific number of things he's completed, you switch to the simple tense. He has played 50 games. See the difference? Ongoing action versus a specific count. Whew. Okay, I know that was a lot to take in, but you are doing great. Let's lock all this in with a quick little quiz. Time to test what you've learned. Okay, first question. She, English for 3 years. Should it be A, is studying, B, has been studying,
Or C, has studied? That little phrase for 3 years is a huge clue.
And the answer is B. She has been studying. It's the perfect fit because we're talking about an action that happened over that whole period of time. Awesome. Let's do one more.
All right, next up is a fill in the blank. I dinner all evening, and the verb you need to use is prepare. So how would you put that sentence together? The answer is I have been preparing dinner all evening. It just perfectly captures that feeling of an action that took up the whole evening, right?
Okay, to wrap things up, I have one last question for you. And don't worry, this one's not on the quiz. Just take a second and really think about it. What is one thing you have been learning to do recently? Because when you answer that, you're not just practicing grammar, you're actually using it to talk about your own life. And honestly, that's the absolute best way to make it stick. Thanks so much for joining me. Great job on the present perfect continuous. This is a more advanced tense that describes actions that started in the past and are still ongoing. To get comfortable with it, download the worksheet and complete the practice problems. The answers are there for you to check your work and reinforce your understanding.
Hey everyone, and welcome back. You know when you want to tell a really great story, share a funny memory, or, just explain what you did yesterday? Well, to do any of that, you need to have one core tool down pat. And today we are going to unlock it, the past simple.
So let's kick things off with a pretty basic question. How do we talk about things that are completely finished? Done, over with. It doesn't matter if it was yesterday or a million years ago. There's one simple answer for all of it. And that answer is the past simple tense. Its entire job, its whole purpose, is to describe actions that both started and finished in the past. That right there is the golden rule you gotta remember. If the action is a closed loop, it belongs in the past simple.
Okay, so how do we actually build it? I promise it's way easier than you might think. There's a simple little blueprint you can follow to get this right every single time. The structure it's just beautifully simple. For a positive statement, it's just the subject plus the past verb. She walked to school. See? Nice and easy. But for negative statements and questions, well, we need a little bit of help. And that help comes from our secret ingredient, the word did. For negative sentences, we use did not or, didn't. And for questions, we just put did right at the beginning. Just think of did as this awesome little helper that does all the heavy lifting, which means your main verb can just kick back and relax in its original form. Pretty cool, right?
Okay, so we've got the recipe, but when do we actually use it? Turns out there are 4 key situations where the past simple is going to be your absolute go-to tool. Yeah, these range from single completed actions to telling a whole story with a sequence of events to stating old facts, and even for those really quick, sudden things that just happen. Let's look at an example of each one. It'll make it crystal clear. First up, a single completed action in the past. I visited Rome last year. The trip started last year and it ended last year. It's a finished event, completely sealed in time. That is textbook past simple. Now this is how we tell stories. He got up, had breakfast, and left for work. You see how the past simple creates this chain of finished events? It connects them all in order and just paints a super clear picture of what went down. What about facts from the past? Dinosaurs lived millions of years ago. This was true for a very, very long time back then, but it's not true anymore today. So the past simple is perfect for states or facts that are now finished. And finally, those quick, sudden actions. She sneezed loudly. The action happened in a moment, and then it was over. The past simple captures that kind of thing perfectly. All right, ready for a pro tip? This is how you're going to avoid one of the most common grammar traps in all of English. I call it the finished time rule. Here's the crucial difference, so listen up. The past simple is for finished time. Words like yesterday or last year signal a period that is completely, totally over. That's past simple territory. Now its cousin, the present perfect, that tense deals with unfinished time, periods that are still going on, like today or this year. And to make it even easier, here are your signal words. When you see expressions like these, yesterday, last week, in 1999, when I was a child, a little light should go off in your grammar brain, thinking past simple. These are all giant signposts for finished time. Okay, let's wrap this all up. If you only remember 3 things today, make it these. First, Past simple is for actions that are a closed loop. They started and they finished. Second, for your negatives and questions, let that little helper verb did do all the work for you. And third, always be on the lookout for those finished time signal words. They're your best clue.
And there you have it. The past really is that simple to talk about. So the only real question left is, what story from your past are you going to describe first? That's all for the past simple. This is the most common way we talk about completed actions in the past. To make sure you've got a strong grasp of it, take a moment to work on the worksheet. Don't forget to use the answer key to review your responses and learn from any mistakes.
You know, we usually think of grammar as, well, a bunch of boring rules, right? But what if I told you it's actually one of the most powerful storytelling tools you have? Today, we're going to crack open a tense that lets you literally paint a vivid picture of the past. Let me show you exactly what I'm talking about. So just think about that for a second. How do you actually do that? How do you use words to take someone back in time and make them feel like they're right there with you? Well, it is all about setting the scene. Let me show you. Okay, imagine this with me. We're locking in on one specific moment. Yesterday at 8 p.m. Simple enough, right? We've got our win. Now, let's add a little bit of atmosphere. It wasn't just raining. It was raining heavily. You can almost hear it, can't you? We're starting to build the background of our story here. And here's our main action caught right in the middle of happening. See, she hadn't started her drive. She hadn't finished it yet. She was driving home. The action was already in progress. So what did we just do there? We used a very specific piece of grammar to create a feeling, an atmosphere, and this sense of ongoing action. And that tool, well, it has a name. It's called the past continuous, and its whole job is to describe what was happening. It's a neat little trick that drops your audience right into the middle of the action, almost making them feel like they're watching a movie unfold. And you know what the best part is? Creating this really cool cinematic effect is surprisingly simple. Let's break down the formula. It's not scary, I promise. The formula itself is incredibly straightforward. I mean, really. For a positive statement, you just need your subject, then was or were, and the verb with ing tacked on the end. She was playing the guitar. Simple. To make it negative, you just add not. They weren't paying attention. And if you want to ask a question, you just flip the first two parts. Were you studying last night? It's this clean, reliable structure you can use every single time. Okay, so we know what it is and how to build it. But now for the most important part, when and why do you actually use it? Think of this as your storyteller's toolkit. This tense is kind of like a Swiss Army knife for storytellers. It's got three main functions. You can use it to paint the background of a scene, create some real drama with a sudden interruption, or even show two parallel stories happening at the same time. Let's take a quick look at each one.
All right, this first use is exactly what we did at the very beginning. It was raining heavily. This is your opening shot in a movie. It tells the audience what was already going on in the background before the main event happens. It creates the whole world of your story.
Now this is where things get really dynamic. The past continuous is perfect for describing a background action that was just cruising along until, bam, something else happened and cut it short. It's all about that interruption. And finally, you can use it to create a kind of split-screen effect in your story. You can show two parallel things happening at once. So, for example, while I was reading my book, he was studying for his exam. Both actions were in progress at the same time. You'll also start to notice these little clues that tell you when to use this tense. When you see words like while and when, or a super specific past moment like at 8 p.m. yesterday, it's often a signal that an ongoing action was taking place. Think of them like little signposts, pointing you to the right tool for your story.
Okay, you ready for the pro move? The past continuous almost never works alone. Its true power, its real magic is unlocked when you pair it with its partner, the past simple. And this slide just illustrates the difference perfectly. Look at the left side. You've got two separate, kind of boring facts. She cooked dinner, the phone rang. It's just a list. But now look at the right. She was cooking dinner when the phone rang. Suddenly, you have a story. The cooking was the long background action, and the phone ringing was that short, sharp interruption. One sets the scene, the other provides the drama.
So, if you only take one thing away from this, let it be this right here. The past continuous is your background music. It's your scenery. The past simple, that's the main event, the character walking on stage. When you put them together, they create a complete, dynamic story. And that brings us to the end, but I'll leave you with one final thought. Just put this into practice right now. Go on, think about it. What were you doing just a few minutes ago, right before you started this explainer? The answer to that question, well, that's the first line in your next story.
Past continuous. We've now covered the past continuous. This tense is fantastic for describing actions in progress at a specific time in the past. To make sure you're using it correctly, download the worksheet and complete all the exercises. Check your answers afterward to see how you did.
All right, let's jump right in. We're going to talk about something that's, well, it's more than just grammar. Think of it as a secret weapon for storytelling, like a time machine you can build with your own words. You know that feeling, right? You're in the middle of a great story and you realize the timeline is all messed up. You kind of have to stop and go, oh, wait, hang on. That part actually happened before this other thing. It just kills the momentum, doesn't it? All the drama just fizzles out. But what if you didn't have to do that? What if you had a tool to just seamlessly jump back in time in your story, explain that earlier thing, and then snap right back to the main event? Well, you do, and that's exactly what we're talking about. So, what is this magical solution? It's the past perfect tense. Honestly, it feels like it was invented just to fix this one confusing problem, to bring a little order to all that past tense chaos. Okay, so what is it really? Think of the past perfect as a little flag you plant in your sentence. And that flag tells your listener, hey, pay attention. This thing I'm talking about, it happened even earlier in the past than the main story. It's all about making the order of events super, super clear. And the best part? Building this time machine is surprisingly easy. You don't need a degree in engineering, I promise. It's just a simple, consistent formula. Let's break it down. Look at this. It's so straightforward. If you're making a normal, positive statement, it's just your subject, the word had, and then that past participle form of the verb. Like visited, finished, or seen. Super simple. Want to make it negative? Easy. Just change had to hadn't. They hadn't finished. And to ask a question, you just flip it around and put had at the beginning. Had you seen that film? See? The basic building blocks, had and that past participle, they're always there. It's really consistent. Okay, so we've got the blueprints. We know how to build it. Now for the fun part. Let's actually fire this thing up and see how it makes our stories so much better. So when do you actually use it? Well, there are a few key situations where the past perfect is your best friend. It's great for showing which action happened first, for connecting a cause to an effect, for talking about something that was finished by a certain time, and even when you're telling someone what another person said. Let's look at some actual examples. Okay, check this one out. He was tired because he had worked all night. This is a classic cause and effect. The question is, why was he tired? The sentence gives you the answer right away. First, he worked all night, that's the earlier action, so it gets the past perfect. The result, later on, he was tired. Bam, crystal clear. And here's another great one for showing sequence. She had already left when I arrived. So two things happened in the past, right? She left and I arrived. The past perfect instantly tells us what happened first. It's like our time machine zaps us back to the moment she walked out the door before I even got there. And it works just as perfectly for negative situations. I was nervous because I hadn't prepared well. So what was the cause of the nervousness? It was something that didn't happen earlier. The preparation just hadn't been done. That lack of an earlier action is what led to the later feeling of being nervous. It's so logical. All right, now I'm going to give you my absolute favorite trick for this. Seriously, if you can just picture this one simple thing in your head, you will never be confused about the past perfect ever again. No joke. This is the secret right here. Forget all the complicated grammar rules. Just visualize this. Okay, let's create a super simple story timeline. Imagine this. At 7 p.m., the homework gets finished. Done. Then an hour later, at 8 p.m., a friend shows up. So it's totally clear, right? Finishing the homework happened first. And now, look at how the sentence perfectly mirrors that timeline. The earliest thing that happened, finishing the homework at 7, that's the one that gets the past perfect treatment. I had finished. The thing that happened later, the friend arriving, that's just in the simple past. The grammar is literally a map of time. And that's it. That is the single most important thing to remember. When you're talking about a couple of things that happened in the past, your storytelling time machine, the past perfect, is always used for the one that happened earliest. That's its whole job. It's the first stop on your trip back in time.
So, there you go. This isn't just about learning a verb tense, is it? It's about grabbing the steering wheel of your story. It's about having total control over time when you speak. The next time you're telling a story, you have this amazing tool to guide your listener through the past without any confusion. So the only question is, what story are you going to tell first?
Past perfect. You've made it through the past perfect. This is a key tense for showing which past event happened first. It can be a little challenging, so practice is essential. Use the worksheet to test your knowledge, and be sure to check your answers to solidify your understanding.
Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to unlock one of the most powerful storytelling tools in the English language. Now, I know it sounds super technical, the past perfect continuous, but trust me, by the end of this, you'll see it as your secret weapon for telling way richer, more compelling stories about the past. So let's jump right in.
To kick things off, let's start with a little mystery. It's a super common situation, but you'll see it's missing a really key piece of information. So here's our scene. She was exhausted. Simple enough, right? But that sentence kind of leaves us hanging, doesn't it? It gives us a result, but it gives us no reason. Why was she so tired? What was going on right before this moment? Well, to solve our little mystery, we need some context. We need the backstory. You know, in storytelling and just in everyday conversation, the why is almost always found in the stuff that was happening right before the main event. And this is where our special tool comes into play. You see, English actually has a tense that's designed for this exact job, to deliver the backstory, to explain the cause, the duration, and the process that was leading up to a moment in the past. And there it is, the solution. She had been running. That one phrase instantly paints a picture, right? It shows us a continuous action, running, that happened over a period of time and led directly to her being exhausted. It is the perfect backstory. Okay, so now that we've seen just how powerful this tense is, let's look under the hood and see how it's actually built. And the good news? It's like putting together a couple of simple building blocks. It's way easier than you think. So here's the official breakdown. The key words you really want to focus on here are continued for a while, and especially duration. See, this tense isn't just about something that happened. It's about the process, the action that had been happening over time. And honestly, the best part is just how simple the formula is. It's the same for any subject. I, you, he, she, they, it doesn't matter. You just take your subject, you add had been, and then you tack ing on your main verb. That's it. Want to make it negative? Just slide not right in there after had. And for a question, you just flip it and start with had. See? Super straightforward. Okay, now that we've got the formula down, let's get to the fun part, seeing this tense out in the wild and watching how it builds our stories. We're going to look at the three main jobs this tense does for us. First up, its number one job, the big one, is to show duration. It's all about answering the question, for how long? It really emphasizes that an activity was in progress for a stretch of time before something else happened. Take a look at this. This sentence doesn't just say, two things happened. It connects them. Those 5 years of continuous work, that's the duration, and it provides the essential backstory for the promotion. It shows you the process that led to the result. All right, use number 2 is all about explaining the cause of something in the past. This takes us right back to our mystery at the beginning, remember? Why was she tired? Why was the ground wet? This tense gives us the answer. Yup, perfect. The wet ground is the result we can see. But what's the cause? It's the continuous action that was happening just before. It had been raining. It creates this really clear cause and effect link in your story. And finally, we use it to describe some kind of background action or a situation that was happening, that was ongoing, right up until a specific point in the past when something else happened and changed things. Here, had been living describes this continuous state. It's setting the scene for us. This was their life, this was their ongoing reality, right up to the moment that reality changed, when they decided to move. Okay, now this is really important.
Probably one of the biggest points of confusion for people learning English is the difference between the past perfect and the past perfect continuous. They look so similar, but what they focus on is completely different. So let's make it crystal clear. So on the left, I had worked. Boom. It's just a completed fact. The work is done. It's a point in time. But on the right, I had been working. That changes everything. The focus isn't on the results anymore. It's all about the process, the time you spent, the effort involved. And this visual just makes it so clear. The past perfect is like a single X on the timeline. It happened, it's done. But the past perfect continuous, that's the continuous line, showing the action unfolding over time, leading right up to that past moment. It really is the journey, not just the destination. So here's the bottom line, the big takeaway. When you want to tell a story about the past and you need to add depth and context and that feeling of time passing, this is the tense you reach for. It's the difference between just stating a fact and actually telling a story. And that leaves us with one final thought. Think about your own experiences, your own stories. What moments in your past could you explain more vividly, more deeply by revealing what you had been doing right before they happened? So, what backstories are you ready to bring to life?
Fantastic. We've just finished the past perfect continuous. This is a powerful tense for describing a past action that was in progress before another past action. It's time to put your skills to the test. Grab the worksheet, complete the exercises, and check your answers to make sure you've mastered this tense.
All right, today we're jumping into a super useful tool in English, the future simple tense. I mean, this is how we talk about pretty much everything that's coming up. Plans, promises, you name it. So let's just dive right in. Think about it. How many times a day do you talk about something that hasn't happened yet? You're making plans, you're guessing what might happen tomorrow, next week, even next year. So what's the simplest, most straightforward way to get those ideas across? Well, that's where the future simple comes in. It's honestly your best friend for talking about what's next. It's simple, it's direct, and you're going to see just how powerful it is. Okay, so first up, section 1, we're just talking about tomorrow, laying down the basics. And then in section 2, we're going to look at what I like to call the willpower formula. We'll break down exactly how to put it together. Believe it or not, the entire engine for this whole thing is just 2 little parts. You've got the word will, and then you just tack on the base verb. You know, the simplest form of the verb, like go, not goes or going. That's it. That's the secret sauce. So putting a sentence together is like following a super easy recipe. Seriously, you start with your subject, say it. Then you add that magic ingredient, will, and you finish it off with the base verb, like rain. Boom, you get it will rain tomorrow. How easy is that? Simple, clean, and gets the point across perfectly. And the best part, this little formula is incredibly consistent. It works for everything. For a positive statement, you've got, I will call you later. Need to make a negative? Will just flips to won't. She won't be at the party. Easy. And if you want to ask a question, you just slide will right to the front. Will you help me? See? It follows the same logic every single time. All right, so now that we know how to build it, let's get into section 3, the when. When do you actually use it? I've got 3 key moments for you. Okay, use case number 1, for those on-the-spot, spontaneous decisions. This is crucial. We're not talking about a plan you made ages ago. This is for a choice you're making right now, in the moment. Okay, check out this classic example. Someone says, I'm thirsty. And you, without even thinking, say, I will get you a glass of water. See that? You just decided in that second to do something. That's the perfect time for I will. Next up, use case 2 is all about making predictions. This is when you're basically giving your best guess about the future. It's not a fact, it's not a guarantee, it's just what you think or believe is going to happen. Like saying, I think she will win the competition. Do you know for sure? Nope, you don't have a crystal ball, but based on what you've seen, or maybe just a gut feeling, you're making a prediction. That's another perfect spot for will. And our third and final key use is a big one. It's kind of a 3-for-1 deal covering a ton of our day-to-day chats. We're talking promises, offers, and requests. When it comes to promises, will is your word. Think about the phrase, I will always love you. It doesn't get much bigger than that, right? That will carries so much weight. It's a serious commitment, a powerful intention. That's the future simple at its most heartfelt. But hey, it's not all about these huge dramatic promises. It's also for the small, everyday stuff. Asking something like, "Will you close the door for me?" That's a simple, polite request. It just goes to show you how flexible this tense really is.
Okay, let's wrap this all up. Section 4. Here's your main takeaway. So here's your future simple toolkit, all boiled down. The core formula? Super easy. Subject plus will plus the base verb. Always. And when do you pull it out? Remember the big three. For those in-the-moment decisions, when you're making a prediction, and for all those promises, offers, and requests. Got it? And that's pretty much it. We've covered the what, the how, and the when. So I guess there's only one thing left to ask. What will you do next? Think about it. What promise, prediction, or simple decision will you make using what you just learned? I'll leave you to think on that.
So, to recap, the future simple is for those spontaneous decisions, quick predictions, and clear promises. It's the most direct way to talk about what's to come. Now, to practice what we've learned, you can find the Future Simple worksheet linked below. Download the file, complete the exercises, and solidify your understanding of this essential tense. See you in the next section.
Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to dive into a little piece of English grammar that's, well, it's more than just grammar. It can totally change how people hear what you're saying. We're talking about the future continuous tense. It's kind of like a secret weapon for sounding way more natural and, you guessed it, polite. So let's get into it. I know what you're thinking. A grammar choice making you sound more polite? How does that even work? It sounds a little strange, for sure. But that's exactly what we're going to break down today. You'll see it's this tiny, subtle shift in how you phrase things that can make a massive difference in your everyday chats. Okay, so just take a look at these two questions. I mean, on the surface, they're asking the exact same thing, right? But just listen to the feel of them. Will you use the car later? It's pretty direct, almost like you're demanding an answer. Now compare that to, will you be using the car later? See? It just feels softer, more considerate. And that little bit of magic? That's all thanks to the future continuous.
All right, so what exactly is this thing? Let's get into the nitty-gritty of the future continuous tense. Okay, so here's the main idea, boiled down. We use the future continuous to talk about something that will be in progress, happening over a stretch of time at a specific moment in the future. It's not about the start or the finish of an action, it's about being right in the middle of it.
Yeah, this phrase right here, it nails it. It's not about what will happen, but what will be happening. See the difference? We're shifting our focus away from just a single event to the whole process. It's like we're painting a moving picture of the future, not just a snapshot.
Now, I know this might sound a little complicated, but the best part is, building this tense is super easy. Seriously, there's one simple formula you need to know, and it works every single time. Let's check it out.
And here it is. The magic formula. All it is will be plus your verb with an ing on the end. That's it. Will be doing, will be working, will be sleeping. See? It's that simple.
And what's really cool is how this easy formula works for everything. So, for a regular positive statement, you'd say something like, I will be watching. Easy enough. To make it negative, you just squish will not into won't. So, she won't be working. And to ask a question, just flip the first two words. Will you be attending? It's a really clean, predictable pattern, which is great.
Okay, so you've got the what and the how. But the real secret to mastering this and sounding totally natural is knowing when to pull it out of your toolbox. And there are basically three main situations where this tense is your best friend.
First up, interrupted actions. Let me show you what I mean with an example. So this is a classic. Don't call me at 2 p.m. because I will be having a meeting. You see what's happening here? The meeting is the long, ongoing action. It will be happening at 2 p.m. The phone call is the thing that would interrupt it. So you're using this tense to give someone a heads up about what's going to be in progress at that specific time.
All right, number 2. This one's all about planned routines.
Yeah, whenever you're talking about something that's already on the calendar, something that's a fixed plan, the future continuous is perfect. When you say, he will be flying to London on Monday, it sounds like the tickets are already bought, the plans are made. It's not just a guess about the future, it's a statement about something that's already been arranged. It makes it sound much more certain. And for number 3, we're coming full circle, right back to where we started. Being polite.
So, let's look at this again. Why is will you be using the car so much more polite?
Well, think about it. You're not putting them on the spot. You're not asking them to make a new decision just for you. What you're really asking is, hey, just checking in on your current plans. Does using the car happen to be part of them? It's way more indirect, it's not demanding at all, and it shows you're actually thinking about their schedule, not just your own.
All right, that was a lot, but we've covered the what, the how, and the when. So let's just pull it all together and do a quick recap of the key takeaways.
So just remember these three main uses. 1, for an action that's going to get interrupted. 2, for talking about plans that are already scheduled. And 3, and this is the big one for today, for asking about someone's plans in a really considerate, polite way.
So now it's your turn. I want you to think about what you're doing tomorrow. What will you be doing? Maybe you'll be working on a big project, or maybe you'll be meeting a friend. Seriously, the best way to get this to stick is to actually use it. Give it a shot, and I promise you'll notice your conversations start to feel just that little bit smoother. You got this.
All right, that wraps up our look at the future continuous. Remember, this tense helps us set the scene for a future moment, describing an action that will be in progress. It's great for talking about schedules and plans. Your worksheet for this tense is now available for download. Work through the sentences to practice using the verb will be plus the ing form. Good luck, and I'll see you in our next lesson.
All right, let's jump right in. Today we're going to talk about this really cool kind of special tool in English grammar. Think of it like a secret weapon for talking about the future, almost like a way to time travel with your words. It's called the future perfect.
So, seriously, how do you do this? How do you talk about something that will already be finished at some point in the future? It kind of twists your brain a little, right? You're trying to describe a future event as if it's already in the past. It sounds complicated, but trust me, there's a super elegant way to handle it.
And here it is, the future perfect. We're calling it the time traveler's tense for a reason, because that's exactly what it lets you do. It's like you can zap yourself into the future, turn around, and talk about all the things that have been completed by that point. It's such a cool shift in perspective.
Okay, so let's be clear. This is a different beast from your regular future tense. We're not talking about what will be happening, like I will be working tomorrow. Nope, we're jumping ahead and talking about what will have happened. It's a small change in words, but a huge change in meaning.
So here's the textbook definition, basically. It's for talking about an action that's going to be all done, all wrapped up before another specific time or action in the future. So it's not just saying, I will clean the house. That's just a plan. This is about setting a finish line in the future and saying the job will be done by then.
And this idea of looking back from the future, that's everything. That's the whole secret right there. Let's say it's the start of the year and you're making goals. You could say, by the end of this year, I will have learned to play the guitar. See what you did there? You're mentally standing in December, looking back at your awesome new skill. That's the future perfect mindset.
Okay, so we get the why. Now what about the how? How do we actually build this little time machine of ours? Well, the good news is it's way simpler than you might think once you see the blueprint.
It really just comes down to 2 parts. Super simple. First, you've got the engine. Will have. That's the core of your time machine. It never changes. It's what gets you to the future. Then you just plug in your action, but you use its past participle form. Words like finished, eaten, seen. That's literally it. The engine, will have, plus the action. Boom.
All right, we've got the blueprint. Now let's see how this thing actually flies. We'll take a look at how to use it in regular statements, how to make it negative, and even how to ask questions.
Check this out. It's so consistent. For a normal positive sentence, it's just, he will have finished. Simple enough. Now, what if he won't have finished? You just swap will for won't, so the movie won't have started. The have started part doesn't change. And for a question, just flip it around. Will you have eaten? The core, have plus the past participle, it just stays the same no matter what. It's incredibly reliable.
Okay, enough with the theory. Let's take this thing out for a spin, right? Let's go on a couple field missions and see how the future perfect actually works in the wild.
So, this first one is probably where you'll use it the most, meeting deadlines. Think about any project, any chore, any task at all. This tense is just perfect for talking about getting something done before a certain time.
And this example is just perfect. By the time you get here, I will have cleaned the whole house. See? You've got that future moment,
you get here, and the cleaning will be totally finished before that happens. I'm basically calling you from the future to tell you the house is already clean. It's so precise, and yeah, it makes you sound like you've got everything under control, doesn't it?
Okay, here's another really important use. It's not just for one-and-done tasks. You can also use it to talk about duration, like how long something will have been happening by a certain point in the future.
This one nails it. Next month, I will have lived here for 5 years. Next month is our future anchor point. From that spot, we're looking back and measuring a whole 5 years of living in that place. It's a great way to talk about hitting a milestone that's coming up.
So there you have it. You've got the blueprint. You've seen it in action. The keys to the time machine are officially yours. You cannot talk about the future with this whole other layer of detail and perspective. It's a real game changer.
So I'll leave you with this question. Just think about it for a second. By this time tomorrow, what will you have accomplished? What little thing will you have finished? What email will you have sent? What chapter will you have read? Just by thinking about the answer, you're already doing it. You're using the future perfect. You're already time traveling.
And with that, we've covered the future perfect tense. It's your go-to for talking about an action that will be completed by a specific time in the future. Think of it as looking back from a future point on your timeline. To reinforce this concept, please download the Future Perfect worksheet. Your homework is to complete it and feel confident using will have plus the past participle. I look forward to our next session.
All right, let's talk about what some people call the most complicated tense in English. Sounds intimidating, right? Well, I promise you, by the end of this quick explainer, you're going to see it's actually a super precise, powerful tool, and way simpler than its reputation. So, let's just dive right in.
So let me ask you this. How do you talk about something that you'll be doing, and you'll keep doing it, right up until a specific point in the future? Like, how do you express that whole stretch of time? How do you answer the question, how long will this have been going on? Well, lucky for us, English actually has a special tense built for that exact job.
And that's really what this is all about. So instead of thinking of this tense as complicated, let's think of it more like a specialized tool. It's got one very clear mission.
And here's the secret, the whole key to understanding it. It's all about one word, duration. See, it's not just about something that will happen in the future. It's about measuring the length of that action as it leads up to a specific future moment. It's literally built to answer the question, for how long?
Okay, so how do we actually build this thing? Don't worry, it's not some crazy, complicated grammar rule. It's more like a super simple recipe, a blueprint you can use every single time.
It's just a two-part system and it never ever changes. Step 1, you always start with these 3 magic words, will have been, always. Then, for step 2, you just tack on your action verb with an ing at the end. That's it. That is the entire blueprint.
No, seriously, that's it. That is the whole formula. Once you got will have been plus verbing, congratulations, you've basically mastered the structure.
All right, so we've got the blueprint down. Now, let's put on our architect hats and actually build some sentences. It's time to see this thing in action, out in its natural habitat.
So you'll see it in 3 main forms, right? For a regular positive statement, it's exactly what we just learned. I will have been driving. Super straightforward. To make it negative, will just flips to won't, so they won't have been waiting. And to ask a question, you just pop will to the very front. Will you have been living here? But look closely, the most important part, that have been plus the ing verb, it stays exactly the same every single time. That's your anchor.
Okay, so we know how to build it. That's the easy part. But the bigger question, the more important one, is why. When do you actually pull this out and use it? This is where this tense really starts to shine.
It pretty much boils down to 2 main jobs. Think of it this way. You pull this tense out of your grammar toolbox when you want to do one of 2 things. Either you want to emphasize the duration, how long something's been going on, or you want to explain the result of a future action. Let's break those 2 down. Okay, here's a classic example for job number 1, emphasizing duration. The future point here is in June. The sentence isn't just saying, hey, we'll be married in June. No, it's doing something much cooler. It's standing in that future moment, in June, and it's looking back, measuring that entire 25-year journey that led up to it. The focus is all on that long stretch of time.
And just look at the difference in the information you get. I will drive. Okay, simple fact. But what about this?
By midnight, I will have been driving for 12 hours. Whoa, see? That paints a totally different, much richer picture. It gives you context, it emphasizes the endurance of that 12-hour slog. It's the only tense that really answers that "for how long" question.
All right, on to job number 2, explaining a future result. Take a look at this. The future result is "my feet will ache." Simple enough. But why? Why will they ache? Well, the second part of the sentence tells you the reason, and it uses our tense to do it. The cause is that long, continuous action of running all day.
So you see that perfect cause and effect relationship, right? The future result, the aching feet, is happening because of the long action that came before it. This tense is what connects the why to the what.
Okay, so let's boil all of this down to the essentials. If you're going to remember just a few things from our chat today, make it these key points.
Think of this as your cheat sheet. First, this is the duration tense. That's its whole identity. Second, the formula is an easy, unbreakable rule, will have been, plus the verb with ing. And third, its two main jobs are to emphasize how long something has been going on or to explain the why behind a future result. That's the whole game.
And to wrap this all up, let's leave you with a little challenge to put this into practice right now. Think about your own life. By this time next year, what is something you will have been learning for one whole year? Maybe it's a new language, an instrument, a skill. It's a fantastic way to think about your long-term goals, and hey, it's the perfect way to use our new favorite tense. Thanks so much for joining me.
That brings us to the end of our lesson on the future perfect continuous. We now know how to talk about an action that will have been in progress for a duration up until a future point. It's a precise tense that highlights the length of an activity. Now it's your turn to practice. The final worksheet is ready for you to download. Complete the exercises to master this challenging but rewarding tense. Thank you for your hard work, and I hope this series has been helpful. All right, that brings us to the end of our comprehensive series on the 12 English verb tenses. We've journeyed all the way from the present simple to the future perfect continuous. And you now have the tools to express yourself with precision and clarity. Thank you so much for joining me on this learning journey. I hope these lessons have made the tenses easier to understand and use. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. And for more videos like this, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future content. Sharing this video with your friends and fellow students also helps us reach more learners just like you. Keep practicing, and I'll see you in the next one.